Of course, we have the Women's Coalition in the house. Good afternoon, ladies.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming.
Definitely. It's my pleasure. I mean, you guys have been neglecting the Big Fat Morning Show, but I'm here. So I said, you know what? Let me be the bigger person and meet you guys here this afternoon.
No, my God. The Big Fat Morning Show has its own energy, and we're just there to support.
I know.
We'll come anytime.
That was my way of warming up to you guys.
Yeah.
I got your attention. What we got going? I mean, tell me about today's episode. You want to go to it first? Or
Let's go to it first. You can play it, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay, so you guys don't have to coach me through this. I've been listening to it on 103.5 on the Reef and listening to all the other stations and stuff like that, and I've been keeping up.
Yeah, so we're at a halfway point. We're at episode 13. So let's play it, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit on Let's Talk About It.
St. Croix presents Silence Speaks, Secrets Revealed, a radio drama about child sexual abuse. It contains subject matter that may be triggering.
That's Saida.
One of the writers.
You sound amazing. You should be writing. You want to take my place?
Why are you here then? You don't sound like you want to do this.
My mother got me into it since I was 3, but I'm getting too old for this. It's okay, but I don't like it so much anymore.
Yes, you do. Stop lying. Oh, you look nice in your outfits, though.
Thanks. But that's the part I hate the most.
She lying?
Go away, Tina.
You're strange. That's the point of a beauty show.
The dressmaker is a little stranger than I am. You think?
Yeah, she's different.
She's a perp. What, Tina? Listen, different ain't it? Let's say she has too much going on with her hands.
What?
That's why I'm saying she's a perpetrator. But she don't mess with me, cause she knows what's up. I wish she could get her. She says things like, here, let me help you with your strapless bra. And then she gets a handful. Ugh, she knows no one will believe us. I like her to try me. I knock her out and then she'll go to jail.
The break is over.
I'm Caridad, and this is Tina. We go to St. Andrews. You?
I'm Leah. I just moved here from Louisiana. I go to see skate prep.
Move it, girls. We have just 3 more practices.
Oh, Uzi, huh? I like you. We'll talk again later.
Okay.
Contestant number 2, Carida, you're up. Posture, please. Here's your question. The Me Too movement has exposed an epidemic of powerful men who have inappropriately touched, propositioned, or held work positions over women who would not acquiesce to their sexual advances. If you were Miss Carnival Sensation and a young lady shared her story of abuse with you, what would you do to support her and get her the help she needs?
Well,
Let me speak for Caridad. The first thing you should do is believe the person. Second, tell the authorities. Any unwanted gestures, touches, or advances are unlawful. If you are the one who is being propositioned, find a trusting person and tell. A perpetrator's kryptonite is the spoken word.
Thank you for listening to Silence Speaks, Secrets Revealed. If you or someone you know has been sexually abused, please dial 911 in an emergency or call the Women's Coalition at 340-773-9272 to find out how you can end child sexual abuse.
Okay, so that was episode number 13.
Yes. So, welcome to the After Show, Let's Talk About It, a live call-in talk show to continue discussing the weekly episodes of Silence Speaks, Secrets Revealed, a radio drama about child sexual abuse presented by the Women's Coalition of St. Croix. The stories are fiction based on fact. I'm your host, Shalene Gums, and today with us we have Khnuma Simmonds Esannason, the Executive Director of the Virgin Islands Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Council. Thank you so much for coming and with the little people.
I know. Thank you for having me. I guess it's appropriate that they be here, being that it's child abuse prevention. Right?
Yeah.
He'll put in his 2 cents. Yeah.
Yes. And it's a live call-in talk show. The number 773-3636. 773-FM. If you have any questions, any comments, give us a call. And you know, we'd love to hear from you. And just to get back to last week, now that you know who the person who was the character that was in the pageant is, you can call in and tell us who that person is again. We had that. We had people calling in last week to answer some questions, and we'd like to welcome Drake. Glenn Drake to our crew today.
Good.
He's
So
filling
this is cool.
Yes.
I like this.
Yes. He's filling in for us, and we appreciate you being here so much. So, Khnuma, be a little bit informal, call you by your first name, darling.
Sure.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into some of the questions about the episode.
Sure. So I think you did a really good job introducing me. So I am the Executive Director with the Virgin Islands Domestic Violence Sexual Assault Council, the other women's coalition, since everyone confuses us.
Yeah.
But just to clarify, we do work very closely, so we're all in the same movement, we're all family. We're just on the prevention, education side. And then we also do prevention education with Women's Coalition. Oftentimes we have to call you all to assist us, and we're so grateful because there are many times when we go out into schools or organizations and there's someone there who has been touched by sexual assault, and that's where we get to call you all for assistance.
Yes.
We have all the wraparound. So that's our role, is the prevention, education, and the awareness piece.
Yes, and the VIDVSAC is also territory-wide, so it's not just on St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John's, and Water Island as well.
That's
so,
right.
in the episode, they mentioned the Me Too movement. So, seeing that you guys do the territory-wide, how is that impacting the work that you do here?
So I'll say that in our office, we've been having a lot of conversations about the Me Too and wondering what that would look like if we were to do it here. And you know, it's a powerful movement, but it also has a lot of implications for safety, especially in a small community such as ours, where people know each other very well. I can say for myself, I think my first experience with the Me Too, before it even came out, was a conference that I attended. It was the Black Women's Blueprint, and they hosted a Truth and Reconciliation for Black women, and it was powerful because we saw and witnessed women talk about their sexual harassment, assault, rape experiences. They called names. They were very vivid. And I said, you know, this is amazing that survivors have an opportunity to do this, and I think that's what the Me Too does. It says I'm not alone, and I can speak up about this and know that I'll be supported, even though there will always be naysayers, but there are more people who support me than not. But just curious about what that would look like here, because you have to, you know, we say break the silence all the time, but I always tell my staff, before you tell someone to break the silence, make sure that there's also support for them after the fact, because there are pros and cons to doing that, and there are pros and cons to keeping the silence. So we talk about that and just look at what's best for the survivor themselves, what empowers them. And I think for the Me Too, that's been very empowering for people, and it's something that we've been able to have more conversations about rape and sexual assault because people are more willing to talk about it now.
Yeah, and so having it here, it is the concern about safety is a big thing here. You know, we've also been getting a lot more phone calls at the office because a lot of men have been saying Me Too. And so because it's starting to extend, especially when you have young boys calling their now grown men, and now they're like, it's affecting their relationships and all the other stuff. So the Me Too movement is a lot broader than we think, but that's one of the reasons why we did Silence Speaks, Secrets Revealed. Because the Me Too movement is pretty much this. Is the fact that now silence is talking about it. Everybody's saying something because it's affecting them. It's affecting our communities, it's affecting our jobs, it's affecting our crime rate, it's affecting how we deal with relationships, it's affecting our education system, it's affecting our government, you know, and the presidency and the rest of it, and you know, it's just going down. It's going all the way through. So in terms of the helping to mobilize the action and increase prevention and education, how is DVSAC now trying to push it forward? Because I know, like you said before, we're now getting a lot of the referrals because a lot of these things are happening. But how have you been changing what you're doing, and how can the community get involved? Because we do need more people to come forward and talk about it.
So in the same manner that you said that you have more men who are coming forward, one of the things that we have been intentional about doing is our Engaging Men campaign. So I think one of the things that we did alongside Women's Coalition and Family Resource Center with the No More campaign, which is kind of working its way into the Me Too also, because we have the men who are also speaking up, is that we wanted to focus on men particularly. We utilize men in the community who are actually doing the work. So a lot of times people think that it's just women. No, there are women and men who do the work on the islands right here and nationally. And we've used that to start having more discussions with men in our community and seeing how we can get them involved, whether it be to say Me Too or to say that men can stop rape, because we do know that majority of the victims are still women, and majority of the perpetrators that we know of, based on reporting, are still men. And so we want men to be involved in all facets, from saying Me Too and speaking up, but also in doing, partnering with us and talking to other men. So we even had this discussion with our board member. So we had an anti-oppression conference that we attended last week, and it's interesting because he's the only white male on our board, and he's like, well, I don't know if this really applies to me. I'm the only white guy. It's a very different situation. But one of the things he said is that he's going to come back and talk to, his buddies that he plays with and he runs with, and talk to them more about anti-oppression, but also the Me Too movement and the other things that he's seeing. And so I think it starts as simple as that, just going back to maybe then to wherever you get your hair done, because your hair is fly.
Yeah.
Going to the barber and just saying, I participated in this show called Silent Speaks, and what do you all think about this? Just starting a conversation, and we've felt more confident about that because of the Me Too movement, because people are aware of it on a national and a local scale.
Okay, from a male perspective,
yes.
I interact with a lot of dudes, and they support the Me Too movement, but they say Me Too movement, but okay, we live in an intimate community. As Caribbean men, it's culturally that we have pride, and we got to maintain that machismo. They're curious to find out about the confidentiality. I mean, because we live in a small community. Look, yes. I want to, I'd like to get some help. I'd like to talk to someone, but I don't just keep it close to the chest or close to the vest, because I don't want anybody to know it's my business, because I don't want anybody to have this soft perception of me.
Right. And so that's one of the reasons why I see that we're at episode 13, and so one of the things that we keep saying is that you can call the coalition and it's confidential. But not only that, you can call. You don't have to give us your name. You don't even have to give us your number. Just have the conversation, because it's starting to talk about it. It brings it to the forefront, and once we start having people have the conversation, it starts to affect all the other things. Because in one conversation that I was having today with this young man that called, he said, I've been listening to this and I felt very bad when they were talking about the little boy, and when his mother saw him and her response to it, it totally just shook him. He's like, because I remember that was me when I was smaller, but then who was I going to tell? First of all, it was my older cousin, so what was I supposed to do? And I said, well, you're doing it now. He's like, but I haven't been able to really trust anybody since then, because that's family. You don't want to break up the family. There are all these other things. So one of the things in terms of confidentiality is you give us as much information as you want. We're not going to say you have to give us your name, you have to give us your number, anything to that effect. It's just to have the conversation. If you're at the point where you would like to have it go forward, we can help you with that as well, but it's not something that you have to do. We just want to really start to heal the community, because hurt people, and we see that because our domestic numbers, violence numbers are off the chart. You know what I mean? They're off the chart, completely off the chart. Our sexual assault numbers are, they're going up, and it's because a lot of people are talking about it. But if you don't want to give us the information, apart from the conversation, we can just do that. So we get to the phones?
Yeah, phone lines are open at 773-FM, 773-9951. That's the alternate number.
Hi, Silent Speaks. Turn on your phone. Turn on your radio.
Is this any better?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay, good evening. This is Nicole.
Hi, Nicole. Nicole actually is the voice and the voice of one of our characters. She is Dr. Dennis. And so we had wanted cast members to come in today, but because of what's going on, they won't be able to be here. So she said she's down in Frederickstead, she'll call in. So Nicole, tell us a little bit about how you feel about being in this wonderful venture that we took on that was so odd for all of us, and new for all of us. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about how you feel about how it's going and how it's impacted you, and then we'll get back to Khnuma.
Okay, so in regards, I was very honored that Saida even came to me to ask me to participate. I really do think that this radio series is a very great series to have in our community, especially being the topic that it's talking about. This is something that our community definitely needs to become more aware of, especially in regards to talking out about it. I'm very pleased to see that it has reached so many individuals, because as you mentioned, there have been so many people who have called in since the series began. One of the things that also happened, I never told anyone that I was going to be a part of it. but just to know that individuals were able to pick out my voice and say, you are part of that, oh my God, that's such a great thing that you're doing, you know, good job to Women's Coalition. Yeah, I know you're Dr. Dennis. Good morning! You know, so yeah, I think it's really awesome that we were able to put this on, and I think all the cast were really good in all of the roles that they played during the series as well.
Thank you so much. We so appreciate you. We so appreciate you. And you know, we have to do this. We keep getting people talking about doing this in video, but I'm not sure how we're going to work that out.
I'm pretty sure we could put something together.
Oh, you're willing? Oh, okay. You're willing to do this? Okay, then that would work.
Definitely.
That would work. That would work.
Anything to continue promoting the work.
All right. Thank you so much, Nicole. We appreciate you.
Thanks,
All right,
Nicole.
you're welcome. Thank you, too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. So, yes, she's Dr. Dennis in the morning, and I think it was last week. Was it last week? I think it was last week. No, it was the week before, episode 11. Dr. Dennis told her story, and her story impacted people so much that we ended up on another radio show having to talk about it. Because Dr. Dennis was talking about the fact when it started when she was 6. It was a friend, her mother's friend, and her mother didn't do anything about it, and that impacted her so much. And she went away, studied, and came back and is doing the work herself. So, in terms of that, and talking about it affects how it affects all of us, and all of us have a part to play in this, not only the Me Too movement, but in the breaking the silence. We really want the Silence Speak, Secrets Revealed to be the end result of the Me Too movement. We want it to end. We want the silence to be speaking. We don't want anybody to be silent anymore. We have this community, what happens at home stays at home. It's killed us all. You know, it takes a village to raise a child, but the village isn't always healthy. The village is starting to break down, and because the village is breaking down, and we have so many things that are going on in the village, and it stays secret, we need to start talking about these things, and we really need to break the silence. Because if we do that, there's so many other things that can take place. So, what do you think? And how can, through a coordinated response, and even with DVSAC working, because we do direct services, you guys don't, how could we do a coordinated community response? How do you think we can create a safer space, and what part can DVSAC play in that, and would DVSAC play in that? Because I know that you would be very big on that, especially if it includes a dance.
Oh, God, yes. Of course I would. Well, I'll say so for folks who might be listening, and because we use coordinated response all the time, and I know sometimes people aren't very aware of what that might mean when we say that. So for us, a coordinated response is looking at all of the major players who intersect with anyone who may have that experience with sexual assault or rape. So of course there's Women's Coalition, there's domestic violence, sexual assault, not in terms of interfacing with survivors, but the prevention side. But then there's also Department of Human Services, who has a major role in terms of intervening, especially looking at teachers who will need to call Department of Human Services, counselors, if they even suspect that something is happening. There's so many different players. There's the Virgin Islands Police Department, there's the forensics. So when we talk about coordinated response, that is something that's what we're tasked with, is having creating opportunities for all of the agencies to get together so we can talk about what the gaps are. One of my favorite ones is the sexual assault response team, which Carolyn sits on. Thank God. And you know, it's multifaceted. We even have the Bureau of Corrections. Many people don't know that there is the Prison Rape Elimination Act. So no, we don't want to say that rape is okay just because you're in prison. We don't want rape to exist at all for anyone. And so anyone who's involved is at the table, and we talk about what are the things that need to be improved and how we can do that as agencies. I know that one of the avenues that we also take is we have different committees, one of which is the faith-based committee. I know that a lot of people, sometimes their very first source for help is their faith. It's their pastor, it's a sister in the church. And so we recognize that it's equally important for individuals in any faith community, whether it be religious or spiritual or what have you, to have resources, to know what's available, to know how to respond. First by, I believe you, that's a good start.
Yes.
And so we partner with our faith-based community members to talk about the fact that sometimes this happens even in the churches and no one is saying anything. The last panel that I did, I shared with the audience that every invitation I receive from a church, it's from a woman or from the women's ministry, which is great. But I said one day I would like a pastor to invite me
or the men's ministry.
Yeah, or the men's ministry, because I want to know that it's an equally important issue to the men in the church and to the pastor, the leadership, because if that's the person that they're going to be going to every Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday Bible study, youth group, and they're not saying anything about it, it's great to have the women's group, but it has to be consistent across the board. So those are some of the things that we talk about, and we've had some good support systems where we conduct some trainings, and we do have pastors and ministers who have us come into the church, even if it's on a Sunday, honey, we'll come and we'll sing and praise the Lord with you, and then we're going to insert domestic violence awareness, sexual assault awareness. There's no one out there that we wouldn't partner with, because there's always an opportunity to teach and to learn.
That is true. And to teach and to learn.
Yes.
To teach and to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so we also wanted to just, in what we're talking about, understanding that it happens anywhere. Sexual assault happens anywhere.
Yes.
It doesn't make a difference where it is. As long as there's a perpetrator, there will be a victim.
Yes.
And believe, especially little people,
Yeah.
believe. They really can't make up those kind of stories.
Yes.
Sometimes, we've had different people come in. We've had the police come in. We've had a pediatrician come in.
Yeah.
And they talk about the fact that they will give you the story, and then if once they start having to repeat it, then it starts to change. But the criminal justice system is, the criminal justice system, right? And the criminal is always innocent
Yes.
until proven guilty.
Right.
So the victim is always guilty until proven innocent. And so we're trying to get them to have the victim innocent.
Yes.
Because if I'm hurt,
Yes.
I really shouldn't be guilty.
Right, I'm already at a disadvantage.
Right, and then how the system's set up, it doesn't work so well for the victim, because they've become a witness in a court case. But we really, we're really grateful for the fact that you, came, because we're running out of time as usual. But, we have a magic question that we ask everybody. So I'm going to ask it to you, and I'm going to ask it to Glenn, because he's new. If you had, yes, we do want the male perspective, and men, really, we need help. We cannot do this by ourselves. Victims of sexual assault, whether it's child sexual assault, adult sexual assault, understand that nobody volunteers to get raped. I don't care if you're drunk. I don't care how short your pants is. I don't care how tight your clothes are. It's not your fault, because rape is an act that is done by somebody who intentionally does something. So being a victim, we can't stop victimization because we can't control perpetrators.
Right.
But if we can get the perpetrators to see that this does not work, then we can stop the rape. And that's the plan. But the question is, if you had one wish for the community when it came to a solution for this problem, what would it be?
Personal accountability. I feel that everyone has to check themselves in order for there to be any change. So that means that we can't expect agencies to function, we can't expect churches to function, we can't expect the police department to function, we can't expect any larger cohort or unit or anything to function, because they're all made up of us as individuals.
Right.
So if we don't hold ourselves accountable, which means recognizing when sometimes we are fearful, yes, there are concerns. I've had teachers say to me, oh, well, I don't really feel comfortable. I want to be, I don't want to share my name. I want it to be confidential. And I can understand that, but that is all a response of fear.
Right.
At the end of the day, how are you going to be accountable to this child if you don't say something? How are you going to be accountable to your neighbor if you don't do something? So I feel like if everyone could look at themselves, be honest with themselves, and that includes me too, because this is, I'm growing and it's a work in progress. And there have been situations where I walk away and I'm like, man, I wish I said something. Or why didn't I do something? Or just, but we have to be aware first that we're even hiding.
Yes.
Right? So being aware of it and being accountable and being able to say, okay, Khnuma, the next time this happens, at least do X, Y, and Z. Start there. Right? Then that's the only way that anything is going to change, because agencies are made up of people, churches are made up of people, they're made up of us, right? So if we don't hold ourselves accountable, then we're always going to have dysfunctional organizations.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
That works?
Yes.
Glenn?
Well, I ditto. No, I mean, for real, as the public information officer for the territory for the Virgin Islands Police Department, I send out approximately 25 press releases a day. I mean, a week, about 100 a month average. And I would say 60% of the releases I send out is all DV cases. I mean, there's some cases that never even, because of we try to protect the victim, we don't even hit the media. It's so saturated. And when I say, you know, we're all stakeholders, it's because, you know, it's the same thing. I mean, right now our homicide, our homicide numbers are down this year compared to last year. Last year we had about 53 around this time. This year, so far, with, you know, December a month away, I mean, with 1 month left for the year, we have 39 homicides in the territory so far. So, but the thing is, you know, we can't solve the crimes by ourselves.
Right.
So, you know, we're all part of this community, and people know what's going on, but no one says anything. Goes back to what she's saying. We're all stakeholders, personal accountability.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. We all got to, you know, we all got to step up, and it's our community, it's our home, and we all got to be a part of it. We can't expect the government or agencies to do everything. We have to do our part.
To do our part. That's it. And if I could add too, I want people to be aware of the fact that, so when I talk about accountability, because we're talking about rape and sexual assault, in some people's minds, I know they're just thinking of, okay, if there's a rape case. For me, accountability is like every day. Like the way that you talk to people, the way that you interact, the way that you choose to care or not to care, the way that you choose to be sensitive or not to be sensitive, even with raising our little ones. So I had this discussion with my son. You know, he was saying, I was being silly, and so I did X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, that's not funny. Did you have permission to touch the person? No. Okay, well, then that's not consent. He probably knows words that most 5-year-olds don't know because, you know, the work that I'm in. I'm like, that's not consensual. But having the conversation and recognizing that it starts from the smaller things that we don't realize, and then it gets worse if it's not intervened, if that makes sense. And so even just talking about like healthy boundaries with children, it's something that they need to be aware of, and it's not a condemnation, it's just helping them to be better citizens when they get older and to make sure that we're not raising perpetrators.
Right, and that's a very, very important part, because a lot of the behaviors that we let slide are the behaviors that tend to take away the boundaries, that tend to take away the rights of the other person. Bullying, we don't talk about bullying a lot, but bullying encourages perpetrators.
Yes.
Because it's perpetrating a crime anyway. You start to intentionally feel like you can say something to hurt somebody else, and it's funny or it's sarcasm. That person's already losing their self-esteem. Our depression rates are going up. All those other things are happening. If you make me feel bad about myself, the one line that I know that in turn talking to younger people that we do a lot, and I say a lot, is verbal abuse is the worst abuse that there is. It doesn't matter. It's worse than being hit. It's worse than being raped.
It lasts.
Verbal abuse leaves the longest lasting scars. But we don't pay attention to the words that we use at all.
Language,
you know?
the language.
And so groomers use that. You know what I mean? And a lot of, when we talk about grooming and sexual assault, I'm going to, if everybody else is telling you, oh, you so fat, you so ugly, why you so black, you so this, you so that, you smell so stink, and somebody comes along and tell you, you're absolutely beautiful, you're so nice, you're so smart, you give in to that. You know, it kind of sets you up because the words have already broken you down. And then they're going to continue to be nice. And everything that nobody else gives you, a groomer will give you. And what happens afterwards? You feel obligated in some way because your self-esteem is shot. And so you start to, even though now you're getting pain, you're weighing the pain in the balance. Is my physical pain worse than the emotional pain of having everybody tell me that I'm never going to amount to anything, and I'm so fat and I'm so ugly and all of that, and then they get it done. And all of a sudden they're getting raped on a regular basis, but it feels like it's okay until they can't take it anymore, and then the defense mechanism comes up. And then we talk about having hot 9-year-olds, which still doesn't make any sense to me.
So what do we expect?
Exactly. You know, and so in terms of that, if we, like you said, personal accountability, but if we see something, say something, do something. Fear is always going to be a factor, but it can't always just be a problem and not our problem. Because if it's not a problem until it becomes your problem, it's already a bad problem.
And the thing to recognize with fear is it's something that we should embrace. Fear is a sign that you're uncomfortable, and if you're uncomfortable, you have to ask yourself why. And if you have to ask yourself why, then what do I do to address it? So fear is only bad if you do nothing about it. But if you overcome that fear, maybe by reporting something, by saying something, even if it's a matter of checking on the person, if there's something I can do for you. I'm sorry this happened to you. How can I help you? that in itself is helping you to overcome the fear. So don't give in to fear. It's just there as a signal to say, hey, I need you to pay attention and do something here, and then overcoming by actually doing something.
Right.
But if not, then we continue to live a life in fear and not addressing it, and then that's where we have dysfunction.
Right, and that's where we have broken communities, so that the press releases go up in domestic violence and sexual assaults, and our murder rates will not come down. And